So, good evening and welcome to Connection Cafe Yoga Journeys. My name is Yvonne and I'm a restorative and hatha yoga teacher with More Yoga. And these cafes, the cafes came about obviously through COVID, and then the yoga journeys came about through More Yoga asking me to do something in the light of the Black Lives Matter protests. And I came up with an idea to amplify the voices of teachers of colour. So these sessions are to hear the yoga journeys of all of our wonderful teachers of colour. And I ask them the same questions, and the answers will be so wide and varied, which I think will make really interesting listening. So this is the second one of quite a few to come over the next few weeks. So each fortnight there'll be a lovely teacher of colour. So this week I am thrilled to welcome Misha Patel.
Hello.
So welcome, Misha.
Thank you.
How are you today?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm super excited for this. I mean, like, when you said I want to interview you, I was like, oh, we can have a chat. So yeah, I'm just looking forward to having this nice conversation about lots of things that are super relevant, to be honest, in this current day and age. So yeah, it's great to be here, and thank you so much for having me.
No, you're more than welcome. So as we start off with these thank yous, I have a big thank you to you. So I'm going to just let everybody know, and I want it out there on record because it's being recorded. I have to thank Misha for my way in to More Yoga, because when I applied, they were inundated with applications. I didn't hear anything for ages. And I met Misha on restorative teacher training a couple of years ago. And I knew Misha taught with you More Yoga. And I was like, Misha, I'm not hearing anything. Can you hook me up? So she gave me the number of the studio manager, and that way I managed to get into the pile and still have my audition. So thank you so much.
You know what? You are a force, and you're teaching. I still cannot get over your assists. If you haven't been assisted, when all of this is over and we can do assists again, I will travel so far just to have you pull my down. Give me a little massage.
You're so kind. You're so kind. Anyway, enough of me. This is all about your journey. So, first question in the yoga journeys is honoring our ancestors. Please tell us your family lineage.
So I am Indian by heritage. I was born in the UK, but my family are kind of spread around from India and Africa. So both of my parents were born in Africa. My mom was born in Nairobi and my dad was born in Uganda. So crazy that they're both fluent in Swahili as well as Gujarati and Hindi. And yeah, there's a lot of like African like roots in my family, and I still have family there. So I really enjoyed taking both of those cultures and like growing up with it, and then I've got family in India as well. It's always nice to go and visit them, but you know, funnily, you go to India, even as the most Indian person in the UK, you're still going to be a Westerner there. So I would say my heritage, ancestors, India and Africa, and then my roots, it's a mix. I'd say I'm Indian by blood, but there is a lot of like the UK in me as well. And I think that's totally okay to say that, you know, my social upbringing is different to someone that's completely brought up in India. But yeah, there's a lot of that. A lot of the roots are still with me, and I couldn't be prouder to be of the heritage that I am.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So when, where and with whom was your first yoga class?
So my actual first yoga class was at a studio that's, I think it's now closed. It's called Hot Power Yoga, and it was in Clapham. And I had no, like, for me, yoga was like, nah, I don't want to do like the fluff. I don't believe in any of that, like, you know, breathing in, breathing out. I wanted, if I went to like spend my hour moving, I wanted to go spinning or HIIT or body pump or something like that. So then when my sister was like, this yoga thing is great. And like my mom has done yoga like so long. She used to wake up and do her Surya Namaskar in the morning. And I'd always be like, Mum, like, that's doing nothing for you. And now I'm like, Mum, do more yoga. But yeah, so I went to hot power yoga.
What
And
year was this?
it was, oh, when was that? I think it was 2010.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, a long time ago. And it was like it was like a level 1 hot yoga class. And I went at the back, and I was just terrified of anyone seeing me and thinking I was crap. And then at the end, I remember the teacher made us hold child's pose for ages, and I can still to this day smell the room, feel the mat like under my hands. Like I was really emotional, and I cried in my first class. I didn't know what the hell was going on, but something hit me in that class. And then I was like, oh, they do yoga at the gym, I'm gonna try that. So I started doing it at the gym with my teacher, who then I went on to train with and do my 200 hours with. So it was like from that one class, I moved to my teacher and continued my journey with him.
Amazing.
Yeah. Oh, have you frozen, Yvonne?
Hello.
Hey, you're there, you're back. It froze. My image is frozen for some reason.
Yeah, it says it's unstable. Apologies, guys. So I'll recap. I was saying that's interesting because you got hooked by Balasana. I got hooked by Balasana in my first yoga class.
There's something really introverted about that posture, I think.
Yes.
And you realize that even if you're so, like, I was so much like spin, hit, pump, that need, that instinctive, like, inner need to rest, I think is really like, you feel it when you're in that posture, especially if you've never done it before. It's like, whoa, what if I can close my eyes for like a minute and just be here, and a lot of things come up. Like, that's just what happens.
Amazing. So how many years in between you doing that first class and then doing the 200 hours? How many years in between?
5 years. I did my 200 hours in 2015.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I finished that and started teaching 2016, literally a month after I did my training. I think it was 2015, yeah, the end of 2015. After I finished the training, my teacher was like, right, you're covering me next week. And I was like, what?
Amazing.
I was so scared, terrified, like, inhale, take your arms up, like, didn't know.
Amazing. Do you recall, so 2015, do you recall how many people of colour were on that teacher training? Like students?
Yeah, so I do. It was me and a Hispanic lady, and then there was there was another like Portuguese lady, but the Portuguese lady looked Caucasian, but she was obviously Portuguese. It was,
How many were on the training?
it was, sorry?
How many were on the training?
I think there was about 12 or 13 in the training, and I was the only brown person, and then Silla, who is still a lovely friend of mine, she has like some Spanish in her as well, so that was it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully as time moves on now, we'll start to see a shift in those numbers. My TT, there were probably like a handful in a group of 30, but I know that's changed over the years. Okay, so moving on. So if we think about the wellness industry as a whole, I want you to think about highs and lows.
Yeah.
So first of all, tell us a low and then move into a high. So we're going to do, the negative first, and then let's stick with something positive.
Yeah.
Highs and lows.
So the lows, let's so lows first. I would say there's a lot of white scented wellness in London, and it's appropriate. It's like kind of taken from diet culture, and the need to fit a certain like beauty type. And if you want to get into like a premium gym, you need to have a certain aesthetic about you in order to fit in. So I'd say that is a low. Is this frozen or is it me? Is it okay? You can
No,
use
it's
it.
not frozen.
Okay, I was
You got
scared.
absolutely
I
fine.
thought it was frozen. It's fine. So yeah, I'd say the kind of white-centered wellness is a low, because a lot of the time, the things that I want to teach are not necessarily like, and what I want to teach in my class, maybe I don't want to teach something that's mega sweaty. I might want to really take the gaze inward, but I might know that that's not what people want. The people want to get what they paid for, but yoga is so much more than just the asana, the rigorous practice. Is an inner journey, it's soul consciousness. So I think, yeah, getting rid of that kind of yoga is for toning, yoga is a ladies exercise, yoga is what we do, you know, to calm down after we've done our HIIT class. That might all be true, but I think that's like it's a misinterpretation of the practice. And then I would also say the kind of cultural appropriation that's happening at the moment in the wellness industry all over the world, and that's just taking the culture of, obviously I'm in the yoga industry, taking Indian culture and just selling it back to Indian people and brown people, and basically saying we're going to take Ashtanga yoga and rebrand it as like a power yoga and add in lots of things that weren't meant to be in that practice. And then we're going to call it our own. So 360 power yoga or something like that. But it's not yours to take and do that. Like, it's not honoring where it actually came from. I think all of that stuff, like a vinyasa practice, a creative vinyasa practice, if you use the correct cultural Sanskrit names, if you are doing the correct breathing, if you're following a system that you know has a lineage and you're honoring that, then it works. And that's not appropriation, it's appreciation. But there's a lot of appropriation that happens that I see and I get frustrated with. And I think, yeah, it probably a low is that people refuse to acknowledge it, and they shy away from it in the wellness industry. But I think conversations like this is all about having, you know, bringing those things to the surface and just saying like, it's not okay, and we need to be a little bit more aware when we see things like that and call it out. And I think one more low is probably just respect and acknowledgement of teachers of colour, because I don't think anyone knows how hard it is to be in a white woman's yoga world when you're Black and when you're Indian, especially going into a room and teaching a whole group of white women. You feel like you're a minority, but this is a practice that's in my blood. Do you know what I mean? So I think, yeah, just diversifying is the answer. A lack of diversity has been hard over the period that I have been growing as a teacher. And even then, there have been studios that are like, you do actually really fit the aesthetic of our studio. And I think, is that because like I'm young and like thin, and like I can be your Asian one, I can be your coloured one. So people need to stop taking the people of colour, the teachers of colour, and making them an ally just to be like, we have a few coloured people working in our studio. And so those are the lows, and that's all.
Yeah. It's good to call it out, as you say, and conversations like this is happening. You know, Cali, you know, bless Cali Rebel Yoga Tribe, she's doing a culture appreciation, like short course, just to, you know, do all this myth busting, get it out in the open so we can call each other out in the industry on it. So hopeful. Yeah. So your highs.
Oh my God, there are so many highs. I tried to really like compress this down when you told me this was the question, because I like, hand on my heart, I actually love what I do. I love teaching. I love every single person I meet. Even I might have the most difficult student in my class, there is something I will find that is like, you taught me something today.
Yes.
So a big high is just the wellness industry gives us like this space.
No, she's frozen.
Was it frozen for you? Are you back?
Zoom, come back.
I can hear you. Oh. I'm sure she'll be back in a minute if this is recording. Hang in there, guys.
Guys,
You're back. I paused the
back now. Sorry about that. It just froze and then rebooted.
It's
Sorry, you were mid flow in so many highs.
Yeah, lots of highs. So like a big thing is, having the wellness industry provides the platform for many teachers to do what they love. To be able to get paid for that is life-changing.
Yes.
Especially I left a really dreary corporate job that I kind of stuck with and resisted being, you know, a full-time teacher. And then I was like, I can't do this anymore. I think it was when we met on our restorative training that I was like umming and ahhing about.
Okay.
And then, it's literally just before lockdown that I quit and did this full time.
Really?
Yeah, like
God.
I know.
That's something else we have in common.
I was teaching so much. It just, I waited for that point where I could like break even in like financially. And now like I'm in that place and it's great, but then all the studios closed.
I hear you. I know you. Yeah.
But another high out of the wellness industry and I guess lockdown and everything was just the community of students, of teachers, of like seeing everyone pull it together and be like, we can still practice, we can still do this online. If it wasn't for just the odd number of students that I met in like my more yoga classes, and I'd say like, if you guys want to just exchange emails at the end, just let me know, because one day I will do some sort of like retreats and workshops and things. And I had everyone's emails, never used them. And then on Instagram, I just wrote like, does anybody want to do online? And I went live and I cannot believe I had 180 people did the whole class.
What?
Did the whole class. And I cried at the end in the show.
180?
Yes, 180 people. And I didn't even have that many on my mailing list.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
It was insane. That is the industry, that is this community that was like, actually, and I said, if you want to give a donation, do, otherwise don't, it's fine.
That's amazing. Was this right at the start of lockdown?
Yeah, so it was like the day that Boris announced lockdown, I was on my way to teach, and I got to the class, and bless them, again, it's all about community, because there were my two ride or die students that came to the class and said, Misha, we'll just do it, like I know the energy is heavy, but let's just do it. And I said, actually, you know what, I'm going to record this sequence in case, you know, things get really bad, maybe I could do something with it, or maybe put it on the New Motion website or whatever. So I recorded it, and then the girls were totally happy with it, and like both of those students, that studio, More Yoga, everyone pulled it together and were like, right, what can we do to keep everyone afloat and keep everyone's income coming in, because this is the most hellish situation. So seeing, you know, the integrity and loyalty of this industry is like it's touching, to say the least. And the students, like the whole support system of students that have become my friends, that have become people that I couldn't pay my bills without this mailing list of people. You know, and every week when I email them and I say, hey guys, here's your online class links, or find me at Sunday, More Yoga, whatever, people email me back and they just want to check in and say like, oh, how's your weekend? And like, oh, you know, we did this last week, like, can you break that down for me? And it's just it's a relationship, and I'm super grateful for that.
Wonderful. So one last question about wellness industry. Do you have one ask, one wish, one thing that you would like the wellness industry to do?
Yeah, I'd say I wrote this down as well because I knew this would be my answer. Stop looking at people of colour as allies after Black Lives Matter.
Okay.
Stop looking as people of colour for business and actually acknowledge Black and Indian heritage and the talent that we have as teachers, because we're not just a tick box.
Yeah.
And if people work together to decolonize the wellness industry, it could truly be a place of healing instead of aesthetics and tick boxes.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Okay, so you mentioned it earlier, but what got you through lockdown?
My students.
Wow.
Amazing students. Like,
okay.
I cannot begin. I mean, without them, I don't think I would have been able to even have the online classes. When I first had like just the responsiveness of them, the feedback, the actual engagement, to know that there are people, because I think there's always something in me as a teacher, and I don't think I'm alone in this, where something always says, because it's such a massive industry, you're like, is my class good enough? Like, come to my class. Like, are they going to respond to me when I ask them what times they want a class or whatever? So to actually have full engagement, participation, and just loyalty, it's my students that got me through lockdown. And with the students, the studios, without, you know, like Dan messaging me, just being like, Misha, do you want to do some recordings for on-demand yoga?
Yes.
Oh, exactly. By the way, do you want to do some online classes? Like, giving us the space to, the whole support network is what got me through. And just being able to practice online as well, because and see my teacher friends and other people that I practice with. Yeah, the internet got me through.
Zoom got us through. Yes. Yeah, Zoom and the internet, and connection. I know, I hear you, big style. Yeah, I totally agree with you with like more yoga, because I've been online, you know, the 2 classes literally the whole of lockdown. So like deeply grateful.
It's not even like a promotion thing. Like, genuinely, that the classes that I got online and that converted now into my real life class every Sunday, that paid for my council tax, it paid for my weekly shop. Like, that is this is my livelihood. And without, you know, the students in the studios, that's I don't know what I would have done, because I wasn't even eligible for a grant. Like, I'm self-employed. So without the community, and community is everything. Yoga means union. Like, this is it. It's like that is what will get us through. I think no matter what situation is coming together, that like together we're stronger than just one.
Wonderful. So moving on to Black Lives Matter. So, you know, rest in peace, George Floyd. Did you get many additional followers as people were diversifying their feeds? And did you have many studios, picking up on your earlier point about studios also diversifying, did many studios approach you as a brown teacher?
Do you know what? My Instagram following grew significantly. Like, even now when I see my followers going up, I'm like, what? I'm not this like influency type of person, but it seems to be going that way, which is fantastic, because I feel like I have a platform to use my voice. In terms of, so the followers grew, and my online community grew from 50 to 250.
Wow.
Which is incredible. And yeah, those people are all engaged and lovely. I had one studio approach me after the whole movement, and I don't want to say after, because it's still happening. Like, this is still, you know, rest in peace George Floyd, and we'll do what we need to honor his memory and to get justice for all of the people that are still suffering in America. So
absolutely,
it's not a movement that happened, it's happening. I had one studio approach me, and I think it's genuinely because they felt bad that before the Black Lives Matter movement, they asked me to teach for free, and I said no. I never replied.
Right.
Because they were like, oh, I messaged them and said, hey guys, are you looking for teachers? Because I'm local.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to say who the studio is,
No,
because
that's fine. Mm-hmm.
I think they're a really lovely studio and probably didn't realize what they were doing, but they were doing it, and I could see it, but they probably couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, oh, do you want to teach like a karma class? So, and I was like, I played dumb, because I was like, what's that? And they said, you teach for free and the students can come for free. And I said, okay, so it's just a promotion for you from someone that's not even your teacher, basically. That's what it is. And I'm not going to do that, because I've invested shitloads in my training, in my
That's right.
in every way that I can, as the inner work as well as the outer work, to get to this point. So no, I'm not going to teach for free. So I never replied and left it at that. And I thought, I'm never going to hear from them again. And this studio is the epitome of, you know, like kind of middle class, and it's beautiful. It's definitely kind of up there in the more elite studios.
Okay.
And then I got a message from them saying, hey, do you have any recordings that you could send us? And I was like, yeah, actually I do. I can send you some recordings. There's no effort for me to do that. I'm not losing any money. I'm not losing any time. So I did that. And I haven't heard anything yet, but that was the only studio that I got approached by.
So was the recordings for like an audition, or was the recordings for them to put on the website?
So it was like they just wanted to know my teaching style.
Right. Okay.
So it was Zoom. I'd recorded already.
Right.
Yeah, the whole business of auditions and stuff, I'll do it if I have to, but it just makes my stomach turn, to be honest.
Okay.
So happier to do that. But yeah, I haven't heard anything. It was the only studio that approached me.
Okay. So what has the rest of 2020 got in store for you? What's coming up? You mentioned retreats. What would you like to tell us about? Where can everybody find you?
Yeah.
Plug. Would you want to plug?
Well, I'm no good at self-promotion, but if you do
try.
If people do want to come and practice with me, I'm mostly in South London, so more yoga in the Tulse Hill studio until they open the others, and then I'm dotted around the South London studios, which is fab, and I love the community so much. I teach at Yoga Point in Brixton, which is a really lovely, inclusive, wonderful, powerful space. So yeah, there's going to be some workshops and things happening there, but I'm just figuring it out because the studio's only just opening.
Okay.
So today I did my first kind of live stream with people in the class, so with social distancing and stuff.
So you were in the studio?
I was in the studio, yeah, and it was really magical. So I guess the rest of 2020 for me is easing my way back into studio life, and hoping to, just get back into the normal swing of things. I would love to plan some workshops and things, but with the current climate, you just don't know how many people you can have in a room.
Yes,
Operating on a kind of commercial level, yes, I've got the go ahead to do my retreats, which is amazing.
Amazing. Tell us more about that. Tell us about the retreats.
Yeah, retreats is kind of where I want to head as a career path as well. So I've got 2 weeks of retreats. So it's 2 retreats, 1 week and 1 week back to back. And I'm doing them in the most magical place. It's Cornwall, so you don't have to take a plane. It's now sold out, but the house. Wow. Yeah, so I'm so pleased because they're my first retreats.
Amazing.
I had no idea. I didn't have that faith that I could sell them out, and it happened. So
both weeks are completely sold out.
Both weeks are completely full.
Amazing. Well done, you.
Thank you. So they're full. It's in Mousehole in Cornwall, which is basically literally the end of England, and it's special because my husband grew up there. We got engaged there.
Amazing.
Literally on the sea. So that I will be using that house again for retreats. I have exclusive rights to that house. So yeah, very excited for that.
How come you've got exclusive rights to the house?
So there's that is basically a friend of my in-laws
Okay, excellent.
yeah, wanted to do like yoga things there, and then they were like, why don't you do what, and she said, why don't you do them? So I was like, yeah, actually I 100% will. So that is going to be my UK retreat spot, which is really special to have, you know, such a beautiful place and to kind of get used to it from this time. So I guess, yeah, that's the highlight of 2020. I would have loved to do some more trainings and things, but it just, I didn't want to do them online.
No.
Do stuff in person.
What trainings do you want to do? What have you got your eye on?
So I want to do, I want to learn how to play sound bowls and the gong, because
amazing.
so my teacher, Amanda, it's like she puts a spell on me every time she plays.
Who's your teacher? Amanda
Denton.
Okay.
She's fantastic. If you haven't been to her class yet, it's quite dynamic. It's Yogasana, but she's like, her energy is just something else, and that's why I practice with her, because of, you know, the way I can go inside. And I think a whole part of that journey was the sense experience of the bowls and the gongs, and music is such a massive part of my life. I would just love to do that. So that's my next venture, I think. Sounding
amazing.
Yeah.
I wish you all the very best with it. So we're going to see if there are any questions from the lovely guests we have, or viewers rather. Just before we invite any questions, is there any last points you want to make? Anything that comes to mind? Anything you want to elaborate on?
Not so much, you know. I found it really hard to be like, to not be like, what about you? What about you? The whole time.
No, it's all about you. It's about you.
I was supposed to ask that question because I just really want to catch up with you.
Okay. You can interview me at the end of all of this. Yeah. No, that's fine. As long as there's nothing else, we can see if there are any questions. So over to you guys. You can either drop the question into the box, or if you'd like to, you can unmute yourself and ask the question directly to Misha if there's anything that you would like to ask her. Please feel free, don't be shy.
It's going to be like,
hi Misha.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. My name's Kirsten.
Hi Kirsten.
So I was sort of wondering about preparation before teacher training. So the situation that I've got at the moment is that I financially can't afford it. So I've kind of said to myself, well, okay, if I carry on doing practice by myself, but then maybe start doing some of the reading lists, you know, the generic books, and maybe learning a bit of anatomy, yoga anatomy on my own. And then I was sort of wondering, is there any kind of like a curriculum that perhaps I can start using while I'm just trying to prepare and get financially able to take the training? Or what did you do before you decided to go for the training?
Yeah, so I think the deal breaker for me to actually take the training was when I learned how to assist and things like that, and that was on a retreat. But the best advice with what you're saying is what you want to learn a few things before you go on the training. I would get, there's so many good anatomy books. I think there's one by Bernie Clark called Your Body, Your Yoga. And that will kind of give you a feel for what you look at when you're teacher training, which is actually the asana in an anatomical form, not just like you're looking at a shape of a body, but it's actually which parts of the body are working here. Is it the shoulders? Are they internally rotating or externally rotating? And then you start to get a feeling of, this is what asana practice is. This is how we use the body. So if you can get a hold of the Bernie Clark book, Your Body, Your Yoga, and then there's some basic yoga for yoga anatomy books on Amazon, things like that. Even if you just Googled 200-hour anatomy book, you'd get so many things, and teachers that are probably selling them for a few quid as well, that are worth looking at. Definitely start looking at asana in an anatomical form. And then there are various different translations of the sutras of Patanjali and the Gita, the Bhagavad Gita, that are broken down where you see the more philosophical side of things, because your 200 hours will always follow the curriculum of philosophy and anatomy, and you'll mix between the two. So the more knowledge you get on both, the better off, the kind of more prepared you'll be for it. And you'll start to look at yoga differently as well.
Right, okay. And with just one last thing, I don't want to hog the ball.
No, it's fine.
In terms of, say, like a reference teacher, you know, when you eventually are in a position to do the training, does it, I suppose the amount of, you said at the beginning you had 5 years before you did teacher training. I've done yoga on and off throughout my life, but not consistently. Over, and I'm just wondering whether that would make a difference, or whether now if I committed and said, right, if I try and find a teacher, then they would be a reference.
No, honestly, you don't need to freak out about that. Like the first thing, when I did my 200 hours, I couldn't do crow like properly. I couldn't do inversion headstand. No way. I couldn't.
Still can't do headstand.
Yeah, I couldn't.
And I'm a teacher.
I couldn't do so. I can't do like all these handstands and like, you know, crazy things. Like I've got a strong asana practice. But it's not as a result of 200 hours or anything I did before that. I think your yoga journey starts like when you start to do the inner work. It doesn't matter how many years you've been practicing or anything like that. Your body is never going to be prepared for that training. If you do an intensive, it's intense. Even with my 200 hours, it was spread over weekends. And I still cannot believe how much my body was like, it was full on, like you feel a lot through that period of time. So I don't think you should worry about your experience. That's not an issue at all. You don't need to have 5 years, 10 years, or even a year. You can go into a 200 hours with 6 months because you're there to learn.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for joining.
You're welcome, Kirsten. Any other questions out there? Don't be shy. Misha is here.
Somebody sent me a message. Great interview, Misha and Yvonne. Misha, your classes online and in person are really enjoyable practices. How do you apply the philosophical and anatomical principles of yoga, honoring its ancestral roots in the classes that you teach? Well, do I reply in the chat or here?
No, just speak out loud. Speak out loud. Yeah.
So, thank you for your question. I would say I try and theme my classes. So over the past few weeks, I was really good at it, and I've actually slipped off doing that recently. But we were working on the yamas and niyamas, so weaving in the philosophy into my classes. So the first, we did a class a couple of weeks ago on satya, on truth, and that was finding truth in your asana practice in order to take it off the mat. And truth extends to integrity in your everyday life. It extends to the relationship you have with your breath, with your body, and the relationship you have with yourself. So weaving in these philosophical themes into my classes, I believe, helps honor the roots and the real reason why we're practicing, because asana is just one of the 8 limbs of Patanjali's yoga. And I will always mention that. I will always mention that pranayama, the breath, is just as important as the asana. The dharana, that one pointed focus. If I can feel that my students are elsewhere, I will immediately say, take your attention to your body. The asana is about extending that awareness everywhere. So we're incorporating all of the limbs into our practice. Most recently, I'm reading the BKS Iyengar Tree of Yoga again, because that always helps me. That's another book, Kirsten. Read that book. Amazing. The Tree of Yoga always helps me incorporate the different parts, the different limbs of philosophy into the practice. So saucha, cleanliness, cleansing. If you're injured on the right side and you do that side in one way, but then, no, you do your left side in one way, but then your right side's injured and you're trying to do the same thing on the right as you are on the left. it's not going to work. That's not cleansing. That's not saucha. And that's also not satya. It's not truth. And they, yama and niyama, weave together. So it's things like that, explaining small things like that in class. If you're injured, be mindful within your whole body, not just, I've got a really crappy hamstring on the right, so I'm going to bend my knee for everything in that one, but not on my left, because what does that do? Creates imbalance. So it's just thinking about the yamas, niyamas, breath, dharana, all of those things, and bringing it together in the practice. And that's our job as a teacher. It's, oh, Becky's in the waiting room. That's very sweet.
All right, we'll let her in.
That's our job as a teacher, is to teach yoga, not just asana. Because if you want to just go to the class, go to do the postures, go to a gym and do a trikonasana with a dumbbell. Don't come to my class for that.
Thank you, Misha. Are there any more questions?
I feel bad. Becky's just joined on. She's one of the most loyal. She's the girl that pushed me to do retreats. So this is what I
hello, Becky. Welcome.
Yeah, and she's come on, and we're like, we're finished now. Bye.
It's okay. It's going to be recorded. It will go up on the YouTube channel shortly. So yeah, watch out for it. You won't miss out. So yeah, so if there are no more questions, we will thank Misha for joining us and sharing her story. Where can we find you? Share your Instagram handles, Facebook handle, Twitter handle, share every handle you've got so we can follow you.
If people want to, I'll put my Instagram in the chat now. And then also I'll just say it out loud. It's _Misha, MISHA .Patel. Oh, I just replied that to Hamish. How useless am I on Zoom? So here it is to everyone in the chat. And then my face is at Flow with Misha, but it's all linked up on my Instagram.
Lovely, lovely. Well, thank you so very much for sharing your story. I'll be back here on the 7th, oh no, not 7th, yeah, 7th of September, so 2 weeks time, 7th of September. That will be with Donna Noble, Miss Accessible Yoga herself. But yeah, thanks again to Misha. Thank you all for joining. Means a lot for you to tune in. And yeah, thank you so much. Have a great rest of the evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, Misha.
It means the world to me that you were here. And if you're watching it later, thank you as well.
You're most welcome.
Yeah.
And thank you everybody for joining, and we hope to see you again. Take care. Have a great evening.
Bye, guys.
Bye, 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 bye.